Welcome to Inside the Wires, hands down, the best podcast in all of racket sports. Listener discretion may be advised for a younger audience.
We are live! I'm Ben, that's Noah, and we have Ara back with us on the show. Today we have Jon Lubow. And just a little quick behind the scenes for you. I sent the back signal out to 5 or 6 people on a little text chain asking, does anyone have a story or two about Jon Lubow? About an hour later and 900 text messages. We had enough content for at least 4 episodes. So I think we touched on some of it in today's episode. He's a character, and there's a lot of stories about Jon. He's a fantastic player, and just a good guy. I believe Ara and Noah had known him before this. I just got to know Jon in the last couple of weeks. Kind of texting back and forth with him, getting him on this episode, and we had to fit him in, just so you guys know, between NFL games. Last week was some sort of NFL final. You guys are laughing. I don't know what's going on.
That's actually what they call it, the NFL final.
And then the following next week is listen to this Sunday.
World Cup, next week
is the Super Bowl. I don't know.
That's what they call
it. I did know that's the Super Bowl. I don't know what last week's games were called. But
Conference Championship.
Okay, there you go. We had to fit Jon on this Sunday. So he's a great dude. We'll definitely have him on again to continue with the stories. I believe there's a poop story in there, and amongst others, and bad haircuts, and being an old age person at 47, and a number of them. So we're going to get Jon on again. But without further ado, this is Jon Lubow.
Hey, Johnny.
All right, we are awfully excited right now to bring back. Fuck, I fucked it up already.
Yep. First time on the show.
I know. Yep. I haven't done this before. This is why we edit.
I haven't even heard one before, so I'm gonna have to go listen.
What? You're supposed to say I've listened to all the episodes, even if you haven't.
We're about 100 deep at this point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. All right, here we go. All right, we are awfully excited to be back with the show this week, and we've got a fan favorite request right here. This is going to be a good one. We haven't even recorded it, and know it's going to be good. Jon Lubow, the legend Jon Lubow, is with us. Long time, the Lubow in DeRose and Lubow. And a heck of a player on his own. So we're going to have some good fun, some good stories, and looking forward to it. Jon, thanks for being on.
Hey, very happy to be here, Noah. I'm looking forward to telling some stories and talking.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know you, since you've been, less active, I guess, the last couple of years than previously, kind of give a snapshot, a thumbnail introduction of yourself.
Oh, I thought you were going to, but I'll tell. All right, so. Well, I grew up a mediocre tennis player who actually got lucky that there was a game of paddle. I will say that I started probably right after college, around 1991. I would get these phone calls from Charlie Stevens, who's somewhat of a legend of the game. In fact, he is the one that was responsible for the fact that we play let serves. It used to be in the 80s that if it was a let, you played it like in tennis and you did it over again. But he would call me, and I was right out of college, and say, you got to play paddle. He had just been demoted off the A team at the Marston Field Club. And he would wake me up and say, you got to play on Saturday at 8:00. And he was a lefty and I was a lefty. So he got me into the game. And that's really when I started, and I love the game. And I started playing on the team at the field club. Never really knew that there was a national tour or anything, or that maybe there wasn't a tour. There were national tournaments. and I played for a bunch of years, and then I got a partner, Chip Dyer, and he and I had a great time together. We played a couple of short hills. We had a big win against Mott and Pierce in the early '90s, and then Chip moved to Telluride, and I needed a partner. And Steve DeRose had just picked up the game. He was the new pro at Morristown Field Club, and I didn't want to break up the SD Senior Gruenberg team or the Jay Graham, Bill Grassmeyer team. So I just said, okay, Steve, you're my partner. We're playing one. And we had some success. And now, it's 20 years later, and here we are.
That's good stuff. And what do you do when you're not playing paddle?
Oh, well, I mean, I work. I'm a commodity broker. I still trade futures and options in New Jersey. I like to play a lot of golf. I've got happily married to Jesse, and I've two daughters in college, one at Cornell, one at Colgate. In fact, I just got home a couple hours ago from Hamilton, New York, where and I had headed up to watch our daughters for the first time ever play club hockey against each other. And happily it ended in a 3-3 tie. There was, I won't say who won. So that's it. Live in New Jersey. I've always lived in New Jersey, and like to play as much paddle and golf as I can.
John, where do they play? Where do they play hockey?
Katie is at Colgate, and she's a sophomore, and Caroline is a senior at Cornell, and they both play club hockey. They're the teams there are outstanding, and they play both. They both actually were. They played at Kent Place in Summit, New Jersey together. They were a defensive pair for the 2 years that they were in high school together, and it was fun. Caroline didn't play club until senior year because the ice slot was 10:30 on a Friday night. So now she's sucking it up, and they have another game. I guess the rematch is in Ithaca on the 19th. So I think we'll head back up.
Nice. Sorry about that, John. Apparently, Aura didn't hear when you mentioned where they were at about 30 seconds before you.
Sorry.
I don't think it was even that. I don't think it was even that long.
I heard the club. I didn't hear that where exactly they were.
John, you said you're a lifelong New Jersey native. I feel like every New Jersey native we have on here, Noah and I ask, what the hell is Taylor ham? And we still don't really know. So I feel like this is going to be a recurring thing. Can you describe what it is? I 100%. Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I really don't get it.
100%. In fact, I just took a trip with a bunch of guys out to Las Vegas for a bachelor party, and I brought 5 egg and cheese sandwiches because anybody who's not from New Jersey needs to have one. Taylor ham is pork roll. So I don't know really what else to call it. It's just pork roll. And there's I guess one of the original pork roll companies was John Taylor's pork roll, or John Taylor's.
All right. Now it's making more sense.
Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. Thank you, John.
Taylor ham. I guess it's a little bit like Canadian bacon, but it's more like it's been ground up, and I guess it's just kind of ground up ham, pork, whatever you want to call it, and it comes in little patties, and the big sandwich in New Jersey is Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. Pretty much.
Look at that.
Place you can get it.
For people watching on video that haven't been in New Jersey, Ara was kind enough to pull some from the fridge. There we go.
We have some props.
Oh,
nice.
In fact, one time I was announcing with Mark Fischel, we were doing the Short Hills tournament, and I actually had commented because John, the chef at the Short Hills Club, had made me a very nice Taylor ham, egg, and cheese, which I continuously mentioned during the broadcast, and it's probably why I wasn't broadcasting for a couple of years.
That's classic. That's good. That's good. So now I did have a question. You mentioned you were a tennis player. Once you started with paddle, did you give up tennis like most people?
I still played. I still played for a while. I mean, that was in the 90s. I actually kind of had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to win the club championship at the Morristown Field Club. So I stayed with it, but and then it just kind of eventually fell off because it was tough to find. I couldn't play with the pros. They were better than me, and I couldn't play with many of the members. They were worse than me. So I just kind of rolled into paddle. It was easier. There was many more people that could play. I wasn't very good, so there was a lot of people that I could play with and try and climb the ladder. But I still have 2 Prince 90s in my garage, and every now and then I will get out there when people ask me, which is rare. But I don't dislike tennis. I just actually like to play paddle a little bit more, but in the summertime, I usually keep the rackets and my tennis whites, near or in the car.
There you go. Ben, you want to talk about ask a question? Uh-oh, we lost Ben. Hang on.
Sorry, guys. I at least have a better idea of what Taylor Ham is now.
Yeah.
Hey, just a quick question, John. You mentioned summer. Do you prefer summer paddle or winter paddle?
Well, I prefer winter paddle, and actually, weather like we've had recently, I mean, without the wind, but I prefer winter paddle because one of my favorite shots is the drop shot. And it actually works in the winter, but I'll play anytime. I mean, the summer's tough because you can only play at night. You can't play if it's too buggy, but if people want to play in the summer, we had a league going in New Jersey about 10 years ago that kind of fizzled, but I'm happy to play anytime that there's 3 other guys that want to.
So you said the drop shot's your favorite shot. We've heard stories about the dagger. Tell us about the dagger.
Oh, well, the drop shot's my best shot. The dagger is probably my favorite shot. So I would say, let's see. So about 15 years ago or so, around 2007, where it was, we would play paddle on, on weeknights and have a good time. And one time I was driving home and I was just thinking about, hey, maybe if somebody like has to dig a ball out of their corner and they kind of hit it like a weak shot back, maybe I just hit it right up the middle off the end of my paddle. And that totally fools them because they think I'm going to hit a drop shot, especially the way I'm holding the paddle. And then, a couple of weeks went by and I was playing a match with Tony Brown, who's a legend, in New Jersey, and Bill Kloss and John Shahadi. And somebody hit a ball into Kloss's corner and he barely got it out. And it was a perfect setup for the dagger. I wasn't thinking about it. And I just hit it off the end of my paddle, right up the middle of the court. They both almost fell over because they were running in to get a drop shot. And we just stood there and we laughed about it and we didn't have a name for it. And then I would start to hit it more often. And then with Jimmy Irwin, we decided that, okay, we were going to bring a bottle of tequila and put it in the fridge. And if anybody hit a dagger and it was not returned, then that guy would have to do a shot of tequila. And then, so that started something. And then one day, Pat Kelly noticed that I was playing with this paddle that had like I forget, it was a old Viking paddle. It had like I don't know if it was.
Hey, cut the language out on this podcast, please. We do not. You can say fuck shit.
A paddle from Minnesota. I was using
goddamn Viking. What the hell are we doing here, John?
I'm friends with Alex too. I'm friends with everybody. So anyway, but there was a knife on the paddle. I don't know if it was called the dagger or whatever. So Pat Kelly coined the shot, the dagger, and I would hit it all the time. And we talked about, writing an article about it or making it a legit thing. But I said, we can't do that until I actually hit it in a tournament. And then we went out to Chicago to play charities. And in the semifinals, when Steve and I were playing Mike Marino and Mike Stulak, and it was probably our first semifinal ever, we were down and I hit the dagger and we won the game and we won the point, we won the match. And then it became legit. So I wrote this article and, a completely tongue-in-cheek article about the dagger. And then from then on, it's been out there. In fact, right after that, we were playing the Nationals in Cincinnati. And we were in the first round, the round of 128 or whatever it was. And we were up against 2 local players and it got to be about 4-11 in the second set. And one of the guys said, "Hey, when are you going to hit the dagger?" And then for the next 2 games, DeRose and I both were hitting daggers as often. But now, I mean, I don't know if anybody else still or anybody else hits the dagger, but I think it's still an effective shot unless you miss it. And there you go. Or at least
I've been a recipient at least of 4 daggers, and I actually tried one in a fun match and I missed it, and the ball hit me right in the face.
I was about to ask, does it hit you in the face?
I missed one against Ray Crosta and Billy Brown in the quarterfinals of the League Classic and at Short Hills, and it hit me in like the bicep, and you could hear crickets, and I was like, "Oh no!" can't miss that in front of a lot of people anymore. But
So,
it's effective.
so does that go off the top of the, do you take it off the top of the paddle, or do you go off the side of the paddle, or what do you do?
Either one.
I've heard
When I
stories
first
about a butt end too.
when I first started it, you would kind of hit it as if you were
Using a dagger.
you were just like shooting it straight ahead, right off the end of the paddle. And then like you were fencing, like that would be like you're trying to score a point fencing. Nowadays I kind of sometimes hit it off the end and sometimes hit it, kind of with the paddle vertical. We also had a shot that we called the bagger, where you would hit with the butt, so the butt dagger. And I've never actually hit one of those successfully, although DeRose has in practice. And in fact, whenever Steve and I would play against each other for fun, whenever I hit a dagger, no matter what, he would have to dagger the next shot back. And he only succeeded in it once. And from behind the baseline, he hit it about as hard as he could and hit me square in the chest. So point to him. And I actually we did play a backdraw match, which we do take awfully seriously. And one time we were playing against Casamano and Holler, and everybody on the court hit a dagger. In fact, Casamano hit one off the deck, which was pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
Going further than that, Mark Parsons told me that you guys did nothing but hit daggers and baggers in the warm-up of a national final.
Oh, well, I guess I know. And I was only in one. He's been in about 10, but yes, at Jersey, whenever we played against each other many times. And, once you've played, and it's usually late in a tournament, and once you play the tournament, you really don't need to warm up much. I mean, you know how the ball is going to bounce, the weather, and you've been, keyed in for the whole day. But yeah, when we warm up, we usually are just joking around. So yeah, on the stadium court at Indian Trail, we were just practicing daggers and, maybe hitting a regular shot or two. But at that point in a tournament, there's not much to work on. You've already worked on it all day.
That final was you and Steve?
Yeah. In fact, that was it was Steve and I. We played. We actually had a great win over Drew, the defending champions, Drew Broderick and Gambino in the semis, and a couple of other good wins over Ben Silla and Porter and Casamano and Lefevre and Rupi and Rusty in the earlier rounds. But yeah, we actually were the first ones to face Mark Parsons and Johan, and that was their first year together after Mark had won, I guess, the previous year in Chicago with Stulak. And we battled them pretty close. I mean, we lost the first set 7-6. I think I was serving 5-4, 30 all, but we know how, my serve is, at that point it's advantage them. But yeah, that was our national final in front of the home crowd. Just
going behind the scenes a little bit here, how does one go from winning a national title with someone to then switching partners completely the next year? I feel like you'd be like, hey, we had a great year. We just won nationals. Let's stay together and do this again.
Hey, with all respect to Mike Stulak,
yes, completely.
Down was, who was then a two-time national champion, more than Mark. With all respect to Mike Stulak, Johan was playing with he had been playing with Porter, his friend from home, I think. I think after the season was over, he called Mark and said, "You're my partner next year," and Mark okay, and that was about it. So I guess there's not much drama when Johan calls and says, "You're my partner." I mean, if he had called me, I might have left Steve. Although we don't have to think about that in retrospect, but it's an easy answer for Parsons. didn't envy him the phone call he had to make to Stulak, but that's what you gotta do.
But I feel like Mike would be like, fuck, sure, okay, no problem, I get it.
Mike is such a nice guy. He was probably
right.
He'd
be like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. The breakups happen in late March, and then you've got the rest of the 6 months to figure it out. But hey, at least he didn't wait till September. I think it was done pretty early.
Yeah.
Jeez, I feel like me and my partner get a win and we get to the second round. I'm like, this is going great. I feel like we should do another year together. This is good.
Yeah, but you got to be careful what he thinks.
I know. Yeah.
Hey, we've alluded to it a bunch of times already, but talk about your partnership with Steve DeRose. How long, you mentioned kind of early on that you guys started, but how long were you guys actually partner, or have you been partners for?
I think, I was trying to think about that. I think we were partners for maybe 10 or 11 years. I mean, we started, I think, in 07 or 08, somewhere around then. And we had our breakthrough when we went to Chicago that year with the Dagger. And we came from, not even really being seeded to winning the tournament, with a lot of good stories about it. And then we rolled that knocked us right into the top 4 in the nation. And we pretty much stayed in the top 10 straight through 2018, which was our last year together. And we made it to the national semis in Chicago. And then I think Steve just, his body couldn't handle playing a full tournament. He had ankle problems, I think, that he got fixed, but then and I think he still today has shoulder issues that just keep him from, it was more like a life decision, that it just was too painful. And it was, we would play tournaments and, after before lunch, or when I would go to lunch, he would go to some sort of a club and go to the whirlpool and, or get fixed up. And it was just too painful for him. So he pretty much quit cold turkey after we made it to the semis in 2018. He and I, we probably hit with each other, every couple of weeks for a half hour. And I think he's played a couple sets this year, but it's too bad that it just didn't make sense for him to continue. I mean, he still teaches a lot and is definitely involved, but I just think it's just too painful for him to play, to try and play more than a couple sets at a time.
So we've heard from, I think, a variety of people that, in one form or another, basically said that he was possibly the most talented player ever in the history of the game. I mean, obviously you maybe have a bias and a close look at that, but given all the players that you've seen in their prime, Parsons and Johan and all these other guys that you're talking about, is that a fair statement, do you think, about Steve?
I definitely do. The one thing Mike Gillespie was telling me the other day when I was playing with him, he said that he had spoken to Hank Irvine years and years ago, and he said, "So what's the key to being a good paddle player?" And he said to get a good partner. And I didn't know at the time that I was getting someone that would become one of the best partners ever, and he definitely did. And he, when I was just kind of just going through the motions and just playing and having fun, Steve was really trying to become the best in the game. And that is something, because he didn't want to just play. He wanted to be the best. And I don't know if he would work behind the scenes. I mean, he's got incredible talent and he's got a great mind, and you can't just get off on, get around on talent alone. You have to be smart, and you have to, know where to hit the ball. And from that standpoint, I mean, absolutely, he's one of the most talented that's ever played the game, because he's got like 30 shots, and he's got 30 shots that he can hit well. And we used to play for fun, and during points, he'd say, "Okay, let's see how many overheads it'll take to end a point." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm going to hit the overheads this point," and I'd be like 8, and the point was still going on. And he's like, "Okay, my turn," because we would talk during points, and he'd be like, 1 or 2, and he could hit, even when we just played a couple of sets a couple of weeks ago. He's got like 8 different serves. He's got, you never know where he's going to hit the ball, and you just can't guess, because he's going to fool you. And he rarely looks foolish when he plays. So absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't put Parsons up there with him. Parsons just has a couple of shots, but definitely, Johan clearly, obviously has all the skills and all the shots. And, Brian Uline was one of the greats that I saw with all of his spins. And there's a lot of other guys with a lot of talent who have, 1 or 2 shots, like Mike Cochran's backhand, Mike Stulak's drop shot. But DeRose has all of the shots, and that's what made him really special. And you can have the debate, but I'll definitely put him right up.
So I've got to ask you, because we probably won't get Steve on the show. He was the one that mainly told us about you, but like, for a guy who's like that invested in the game and loves it and that competitive and that talented, like, when he quit in 2018, what's he do now? Like, you don't just, you're not that competitive and go, oh, I'll just sit on the couch and hang out? Like, has he taken something else up, or?
I don't know if he was that invested in the game. I mean, he never really followed it when he wasn't playing, but he has lots of stuff going. I mean, he did 20 different things athletically. I mean, he definitely teaches tennis. I mean, he teaches high level kids tennis. So that took up a lot of his time. He's got a great girlfriend, Jess, now, and I'm sure they're spending a lot of time together. So he's, I don't think he misses it much. And I don't think he missed it much in the off season when we were playing. He wasn't, following tournaments that he wasn't playing in, and I mean, he was trying to win every tournament once. So he would travel all over the place. And for a long time, actually, before COVID, he was traveling the world. He was every weekend, he was jumping on a plane, going somewhere, enjoying life. So I don't think, I think he does have a lot of other interests, and I won't try and list them all, but I think he really missed it. I just think he made the decision that he wasn't going to play tournament paddle tennis anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. We were told that we need to ask about the Premier Cup in Richmond with the legend Guy Moore.
Oh,
now
yeah,
down in Florida.
That was a fun little trip. We had the Premier Cup. If you guys, for people that don't know, was, I guess, Premier. Did they make courts? What did they make? I think they were maybe a court builder, but they was the Premier Cup, and I guess the name Premier. They started at the beginning of the season. They would invite the top 8 teams in the country, minus Mark Parsons, to all these to a different destination. And one year it was in Richmond. And actually, a couple funny things happened. So I have a friend who has a plane, and we rented the plane, and it was Leonard, Drew, Guy, Brian O'Connor, Steve, and I flying down out of New Jersey. Guy, whose nickname is the Boss, because he, Guy was the boss, and he was sitting in the co-pilot seat drinking his vodka and having a great time. And 2 funny things happened at that tournament. One was so after we were done with the Saturday matches, and I forget who was our host at the Richmond Country Club, but Mike Marino, Steve, and I decided that it was in early October, I think, and we wanted to go for a swim. We were at this beautiful country club, so we were like, okay, let's just go for a swim. They had a pool, so we got to the pool and the door was locked, but people were swimming outside in the pool, so we kind of jumped over the fence and hung out in the pool. But I guess that was the wrong thing to do, because some member really yelled at us a lot. And then the next day when we showed up to play, we had to, all of us individually, get on the phone and apologize to the club manager, Mr. Harris. So it was kind of like we got slapped. But I guess the big thing involving Guy Moore was the semifinals were supposed to start at 9 a.m. And everybody was in the car. Leonard was driving, and we were going to go to the club, and we're sitting there waiting, and Guy Moore showed up at around 9:15, and it was about a maybe 20-minute ride to the place. So we showed up at around between 9:30 and 9:45 to an absolutely incensed Mike Marino. Started screaming at Steve and me about, like, the people were there to watch, and the thing started at 9 and we were so late. And I said, and we both said, talk to Guy. And Guy shows up on the court, and Marino just dresses him down, and Guy just looks at him and says, "You're not wrong." That ended it. And then they went and played. I don't know how anybody did, but we got out there, and we flew home. But Guy Moore, who in my opinion is a legend of the game, and he
absolutely
way about him, and so he was the boss.
I feel like Mike Marino would have FYM'd him first point of the match.
We were on the other court losing our semifinal match. I don't know what happened. I don't think they won, but all of the winnings that everybody made went to sharing the cost of the plane, and he definitely helped earn some money for the plane ride.
See, I figured what you were going to say is that you said a guy got there at 9:15, that he was just getting in for the night too. That sounds like it would be a Guy Moore story.
No, we were all for that tournament. Well, Guy can do that, but we were all for one for all. We had a fantastic driver, Leonard, Leonard Jonason, by the way, who was a great player and then gave up the game, moved to Florida. He doesn't drink, so he was happy to drive us. But when he drove, so we all had to be together, one for all for one.
Yeah, guy's a legend, that's for sure.
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just saying, guys down in Naples now, for anyone going to look him up. So yeah, he got tired of New Jersey winter.
So this friend with a airplane, is this Dan Englander?
No, Dan Englander. No, this is a friend of mine who's an eye surgeon, and he flies his own plane, but he rented it out to us in New Jersey. Dan has definitely been very generous because he's got a plane or two, and in fact, he took us all out to Chicago. I think that year it was we instead of Region 1, we were Flight 1, and he flew everybody out there. I think Hughes and Powers won that year, and it was a great time on the plane. I just missed the ride back as I headed out to ski.
And I've seen the pictures from the plane. It looks like a good time.
Doesn't Dan share a shower with you too? I mean, not when he's in there, I don't think, but
no.
Oh no, that'll go somewhere. I don't know where that.
No, I thought you have a tendency to stop over at Dan's house to unannounced to shower.
Oh yeah, that was.
I didn't say he was in the shower with you. I said it was his shower.
You worded it poorly.
In Long Island. Well, there was lots of different bathroom things happening in Long Island. But yeah, I was playing. I forget who I was playing with, but we were driving from our morning matches it might have been Juan. I don't know. We were stopping. We had morning matches at Nassau, and then we had to go to Huntington and for lunch. And I was driving by Dan's house, so I decided to go in and take a shower. And I went into Dan's house and went up the back stairwell up to my bedroom. Actually, no, that's not true. They have an elevator. So I took the elevator to the third floor, went to the bedroom I always sleep in, and I took a shower. And then I came back and got the elevator, and I got stuck in the elevator, and I got to the first floor, and I had to knock for somebody to let me out. And his wife was there with a friend, and I guess she had been freaked out because there had been some burglaries in the neighborhood. So she definitely wasn't excited that there was somebody in their elevator. But I did, when I knocked, she said, "Who is it?" I did immediately identify myself. But I don't know that Julie has forgiven me for scaring her like that. But then again, there's other people who have been scared by me in the past. So, and whether they forgive or not is immaterial.
Hey, John, let me ask you something. In 2008, were you guys the last team to beat Johan and Mitchell? And then they went on this undefeated run. What's that all about?
Well, not to beat them, actually I won $100 with the bet on this with Carl Levenant. So what happened is that in 2008, I think it was 2008 when we were in Cincinnati and we were the 3 or 4 seed, Johan was playing, and Johan was just still coming up in the game, hadn't really had a whole lot of success at that point. And he was playing with a buddy of his, Steve Mitchell, who was maybe playing paddle for the first or second year of his life. And we met them in the round of 32 and we squeaked by them. I think it was 7-5, 7-6. And then the next year, Johan picked up Jerry Albrights and they won the national championship. And then I think the next 2 years he played with Porter and they went to the finals. And the next 2 or 3 years with Parsons. So at some point, when Johan was still on that run, I realized that we had beaten them, and I bet Carl Levenant, who couldn't believe that they had ever played, because I think Steve Mitchell ended up moving away or giving up the game for maybe even 8 or 9 years.
Right.
But so a good answer to the trivia question was the last team to beat Johan in the Nationals before he went on a streak of maybe 8 or 9 in a row. It was in Cincinnati, and it was very close.
He's kind of good these days, Mr. Johan.
Oh yeah, he's very good.
He's not bad. Hey, I've got a quick question for you. I was just thinking about it as you were talking about friends with airplanes and all that stuff. I've seen this picture of this house, and I am assuming it's on the East Coast. There's a paddle court on top of a swimming pool. it's the most beautiful
Yeah.
house and compound. And I can't work. I don't know anyone that knows whose court it is or where it is. And I was just wondering if you happen to know whose court that is.
Nope.
Someone told me about it, Ben. I had the name of the person, but I forgot. I got to look that up for you, unless Johnny knows.
No, I don't. I mean, I try to befriend people with airplanes.
Yeah.
If
Good
you can
thinking.
find out, I would definitely try and befriend someone with a pool with a paddle court on top. No, I have played. There's a paddle court right in Times Square on the top of a building that I played at a couple of years ago. That not too many people know about. But besides that, I'm not aware of what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, we'll try to find a picture and we'll send it to you. It might be the most beautiful paddle court I've ever seen.
Wow.
Right, Ira, this thing's
It's amazing. It's amazing. I asked the same question, and somebody told me they thought they knew whose it was, but I will look that up for you guys.
All right.
So John, did you compete in the League Classic this year?
Yes, I did with Daniil, who used to work for Drew, who's now the pro at the Marstown Field Club. Yeah, we had a good run. Daniil is like 26 and only going to get a whole lot better. So hopefully I can keep him as a classic partner for years to come. Yeah, we had a tough loss to Will Kendall and Zach Rose now in the I think that was the quarterfinal. Maybe it was the quarterfinals. Maybe it wasn't the quarterfinals. Maybe it was the 16s. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, League Classic is great. I managed lucky to win it once, or fortunate to win it once. Played many finals with Steve, but that's just it's the biggest paddle tournament in in the world, and it's a great time.
I was a Lubow
Daniil's a
victim
fiery
in that tournament. I was a Lubow victim.
Well, you played extremely well.
I saw 2 daggers in that match also, by the way.
Excellent.
Yeah, Daniil's a fiery little fucker, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jeez, that guy runs hot.
Oh, did you play him, Ben? Where'd you play him? You played him in Montclair?
I'll tell you a quick.
Did you play him in Detroit?
No, I played him at Montclair. I'll tell you a very quick story. He was playing with Gene.
To a team.
Okay, super, a great guy. I'm always cool with Gene, and we have beers and friendly. Great guy. We're playing the match. Gene hits a short, slow serve, and I tag Daniil at the net. I just crack him. Yeah, your eyes went wide. You know where this is going.
No, I don't. I don't know the story.
And I cracked him off the return. And for the next, I swear, I always assume if I've hit someone, I understand that the next point or fairly soon there's a shot coming right back at me. Whether you hit me or you don't hit me, hey, go for it. But then we've moved on. I took one and got you. You took one and either hit me or didn't, and we move on. Well, Daniil didn't take it that way. Daniil took it as for the next 25 minutes, he's going to swing at 1,000 miles an hour and try and hit me. And he didn't hit me. He couldn't hit me. He kept missing. And I think it just made him angry and just kept going after me. And finally one buzzed the tower, hit the back fence on the fly. And I turn around to my partner, who's a guy called Tyler Owens, who's probably the calmest, nicest human being you ever meet. And I go, if that little fucker takes another swing at me, like, game on. Like, I'm done with this. I'm done playing nice. So the next point, Tyler serves, comes in, and Daniil must have floated a return. And Tyler goes full on FYM at Daniil's head at the baseline and buzzes by him. And I turn around, I go, what the hell? Calm down. And like, Gene walks over to Daniil. He's like, hey, you need to calm this shit down. Stop this. And like, we took our partners to our like opposing corners and we're like, please stop. This needs to end right now. On the changeover, I'm like, Gene, are we cool? Are we good with this? He goes, dude, I've calmed him down. We're fine now. Hey, we're buddies. Let's have a beer after this. But yeah, that little guy runs hot.
Yeah.
Well, he's not a little guy, and he does run a little bit hot, but you know what? He's competing.
He's going to be good.
And he's very aware because he called me. I think he had a small issue in Detroit, and we had an issue in the league where he mishit somebody in the head, and I was only there for that one. And I saw what happened, and again, he missed hit a return and it hit the guy in the head. Like the noggin, not in the, by the way, Sven Burst does not know what the word noggin means. Anyway, that's an aside. But Daniil, like kind
Wait,
of,
there's got to be a story there too.
Daniil only half-heartedly apologized, and they weren't happy. And then I said, Daniil, you gotta like be a little more apologetic. He's like, well, it was a miss hit. And I was like, yeah, but you gotta overdo it the other way. So now whenever Daniil and I with each other or against each other, whenever he hits me, we always hug. We like we just have a hug. But if you want to hear the Sven Burst thing, I was playing Long Island with Sven. Oh, that's what I was playing with when I took the shower at Dan's house. Long Island with Sven a couple of years ago, and we played a point, and I think he hit one that grazed one of the opponents in the head, and I wasn't sure if it hit him or not, so I wasn't sure who had won the point. So I hadn't hit the ball, so I turned to Sven. I said, Sven, did that hit the guy in the noggin? No, it hit him in the head. And now we call each other noggin, but just, now Sven knows what noggin means. And anybody else who might be listening, noggin, I think it's a Swedish word actually, and it does mean head. So there you go.
So, by the way, the first time I played against Daniil, he hit my partner in the head as well. And I had like at the changeover, I went to him. I'm like, Daniil, like, what are you going to like Johan's school of FYM? He goes, Johan, go to my school. Like, oh my God.
There you go.
That's special.
There you go.
So,
Well,
yeah,
next time your partner will get a hug.
Yeah. Well, he lives 2 minutes away from me. He just texted me. He said, I hope you guys are saying all nice things about me. I said, maybe.
Yeah, he's a sensitive guy. So
Three out of the four of us.
All right. Hey, so I heard there was a story about you hiding in Drew Broderick's house when he lived next door to you, much to Merrill's dismay, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was a good story. So we starting years and years ago in Chicago, one time we went out to charities and it was Halloween, and we just started hiding and scaring each other. And we really started taking it to really good extreme levels. Nobody's gotten hurt, fortunately, but so there was about 5 or 6 years ago, Drew was living in a cottage in essentially next door to me in Morristown, and it was Valentine's Day, and he was in the process of courting his wife Meryl, and he was jumping a train into the city, and they were going out to a show, and then they were going to come back, and he calls me up and he's like, do you have a vase or a vase? I don't know what somebody would call it. But I said, sure. And he said, good. Can you bring it over? And I said, fine. And he was jumping in the shower. So I brought the vase over to his house. And while I was there, I unlocked the back door, and he wanted the vase because he had flowers, and then he and Meryl were going to come back to the house, and they were going to have a precious moment. He was going to give her the flowers and the Valentine's Day gift. So I brought him the vase. And then he left and he jumped on the train and went to the city. And I was like, hey, what train are you on coming back? And he said foolishly that he was on the 10:56, which I knew would get in around 11:56. So on a cold February 14th, I went and I had this like kind of a Frankenstein mannequin that I had made for the purpose of scaring. And that's a long story in and of itself. But I had this Frankenstein doll, and I went over to the house. And I went in and I put it on the toilet seat of the master bathroom, and then left and went home. And then around around midnight, I figured, give enough time for the train to come in and back to the house. I went over because sometimes the best thing about a scare is if you can get it on video or audio. So I had cracked the bathroom window, and I watched them come and get into the house. And then they spent like a half hour having a drink in the living room, which it was a ranch house, so I could go see them doing this. And I just kept going up to the window and starting and stopping a video with my phone of them and waiting for them to come open the door to the bedroom, which they did. And Drew said, I have the tape of this somewhere, so maybe I can send it to you. You can splice it in before we this goes to air. But Meryl started screaming. She said, among other things, like, "I hate Lubow. I can't live like this." It went.
Okay, this is about the 10th tape. I've been outside the house now for about 25 minutes or so. My nose is starting to run. My feet are cold. My fingers are cold. They are home. They've had a cocktail. They've kissed on the couch. I'm sure Meryl's opened her Valentine's card and noticed the roses in my vase. She has gone to the bathroom, the wrong one. Caroline is just texting me, asking me if I'm still waiting. And yes, Caroline, I am still waiting. Oh, they just turned off the living room light. So they must be making their way to the back of the house. My nose is freezing, but I think this is it. Here they come. You'll see somebody cross a shadow here. Yeah, they're in the kitchen. I think I've heard them pour the ice out in the sink. Oh, kitchen light is off. Kitchen light is off. I think they're moving towards the back of the house. All we need is one of them to just come in this bathroom. I'm thinking I'm gonna get Drew, but it'll be one of them. Here they come, I think. I hear Drew. Tension. I hear Meryl. I don't see a shadow yet. I see some movement. I hear them, they're close.
Oh my God.
I got Drew. Lubow is an idiot. I hate him. Just put the scariest thing in my fucking bathroom.
Oh my God. I hate them.
Meryl's asking how I got in there. He said he hates Lubow.
Yeah.
She can't come home alone.
If he's in the shower right now, I'm gonna kill him.
I'm telling you, I heard somebody cough. I don't know how he did that.
This is hilarious. You can't hear this.
It went pretty good. And then, of course, I called him from outside the house because I was still there, which freaked him out a little bit more too. But that had to be top 5 scares. I've got other ones, other really good scares, but that was top 5.
See, your wife Jessie seems to be all the stories I was told. Her name comes up. She seems to be an accomplice in a lot of these pranks. So I assume she wasn't that angry of you leaving at 10 o'clock at night on Valentine's Day.
No, I mean, that was okay, but she knew it was important to me. I guess you have to keep up the scares. But Jessie's been an accomplice at times, because we used to have Steve and I had a lot of back and forths. I would find out that he was teaching a tennis lesson at center court at 4 o'clock. So then one time I went over and I got in the back of his car and waited for him to come out. And before he came out, I had Parsons on the line, and and then DeRose got in the car, and I sat there for like 2 minutes, and then finally said something and just jumped right out of the car. Then he got me back. A couple of weeks later, Jessie was away, and it was like a morning, and we had people painting the house, and And he walks right into the house at like 7:30 in the morning, right by all these painters, right upstairs, right into the bathroom where I was doing my business, and scared out of me. And that was a good retort. But then I think I got really good with this one. And this is where I use Jesse. So Steve had hooked up the sling box at my house, so I could record shows remotely. And he's very technical and I'm not. And there was something wrong and it needed to be fixed. And he says, hey, I'm 5 minutes away. I'll go right there right now and fix it. And it's in a closet in the second floor of the house, like just a closet with, a linen closet. And I worked 10 minutes away and I couldn't get home in time. But Jesse was home and I said, here's what you do. You got to get in that closet right now, right in the house, and go into that and go up to that closet. And she's like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, you have to do it. You're doing it. And so she reluctantly agreed. She got in the closet. DeRose comes in. He's always in a hurry. He goes right up. He opens the closet and she just says, boo. And it was one of the most effective scares, one in which he rues to this day. But Jesse's an accomplice in a lot of things. She's been and she's also been a great fan. Come to watch some paddle matches over the years. But I really must thank her for helping me on that scare.
Did Jesse also get kicked out of the hockey game with you in Canada?
Oh no, I managed to do that all. Oh no, that was horrible. I blame Sebastian Sebi on that one. That
Many people do.
Right. That was Dan Englander, such a great guy. We know how much it's important to follow the Rangers, and he would get us he would fire the plane up and generously invite a bunch of the paddle players and me, fortunately, to go to these away Rangers games. And yeah, it was probably like around 2015 or 16. Rangers are playing the Senators in the playoffs, and we're on the plane. This is the early days of edibles, and I had one, and Sebi was going to have one. Yeah, and Sebi was going to have one, and the last minute he didn't, and I didn't want to leave it on the plane. And so I OD'd, I think. And then we went to the game. We went to lunch and we went to the game. And at some point during like the first period, I just got extremely dizzy and I was kind of losing motor ability. And I went, to go to the bathroom. I got flagged by some people there and who were dead set on, kicking me out. And they kicked me out. So now I'm outside. And Dan tried to save me, but he couldn't. They wanted me out of there. They kicked me out. And now I'm outside of the arena. It's the second period of a playoff game. And thank God, when we were on the plane, right before we got off the plane in Ottawa, one of the pilots came back and he gave us a business card, which showed where we had flown into, because I didn't know where I was going to go. And I didn't know how to find these. And my phone wasn't working in Canada. And so I went to a cabbie. I got in the cab. I said, okay, take me to this address. And he took me to the airport, and I made sure it was the right airport. And I said, okay, now take me to a bar where I can watch the rest of the Rangers game. And this cabbie took me to the bar. He came in with me. I was the only guy in the whole bar wearing a Rangers jersey. I had a poutine, which I think is some sort of French food with
that's amazing.
Good with like French fries and gravy. And
cheese.
The game was over. In overtime, the Rangers lost, which was awesome. He drove me back to the airport where I was calmly waiting for Dan and the rest of the group to get there so I could not miss my ride home. But Dan thinks that, and he constantly accuses me of ignoring all of his phone calls, but they just weren't getting through to my flip phone because we were in Canada. But anyway, but that was, I've been kicked out of Madison Square Garden, but that's another story. I'm afraid, and I definitely think I might be afraid to go back to Canada. The Rangers, don't end up playing, Toronto or Montreal in the playoffs again.
But sorry, I wanted one quick follow-up, Noah, and then it's all you. But being on edibles, that poutine tasted amazing, didn't it?
Yes.
Oh yeah, right.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I've ordered it since. I didn't even know that thing existed. But who doesn't like fries and gravy, like whatever else?
Cheese
and meat too. But it was good. That's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Good poutine at a place in Boston, right by Faneuil Hall. I was there for the Boston Open, actually. I forget what it's called now. Sauce, maybe. But I digress. So speaking of hockey, you're kind of legendary as well for wearing some throwback jerseys, the Hartford Whalers, Quebec Nordiques shirts or jerseys when you're playing. What's the origin of that? Just a big fan of the old teams?
I dated a girl in college who went to Trinity, and I still have a sweatshirt, a Whaler sweatshirt from her. And at some point, I just think I was at like this retro NHL store. Maybe it was on Martha's Vineyard, or maybe it was just a t-shirt store. And I bought a Whalers shirt, like a retro Whaler shirt. And I just started wearing it. And maybe we had some success with it. And I wore it at a tournament, and people associated with me. And then I would start wearing that shirt again whenever we would make it to the semis or finals. And then people started giving me Whalers shirts. And then I started having to study like Whalers history, because I would wear the Whalers shirts everywhere, and people would come up to me. And I do honestly think that the Whalers logo is the best logo of all time. It's got the W with the whale's tail on top, and then the negative space H. So it's just a great logo. It's the Whalers are now the Carolina Hurricane. And then after that, I just started wearing, Nordique stuff too. So I kind of like the retro, vintage hockey stuff, all NHL, the old NHL. And I guess people know me a lot for that now, but I still probably have about 10 or 11 Whalers shirts or sweatshirts, in my closet.
That's awesome.
And you mentioned Martha's Vineyard. Mark Parsons said you guys were probably playing without permission at a place in Martha's Vineyard and got questioned.
Yeah, there's this one. There's a couple of courts on Martha's Vineyard, and I would always every summer I would have a couple of guys up. At one time, I think I had Mark Parsons, his former and future paddle partner Brian O'Connor up there too with Steve, and we went and we decided that it would be much easier to ask forgiveness than permission, because this is a snooty little club in Edgartown that had 2 paddle courts. They didn't even have lights. You could just play during the day. So we all got dressed up in our whites, and we were playing on the court. And then I think the pro or somebody said, "Are you members here?" And I said, "Yes." And, "Well, how long have you been a member?" And I said, "So long, I can't remember when I joined." Which was completely false, but they let us play, and they might have seen that we had a little bit of skill, so that worked. That worked out. I haven't been back there in a couple of years, but I feel like I could still go back there anytime. I think I'm not even sure, but the club opened up, and I think Max Lipaver actually might even be the new pro. In which case, I could probably play without asking, but I don't know what developed with that. Although I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that. No, Max is very happy where he is. Which he just wanted to visit there once, so we'll just have to see how this plays with Max between now and airing time, and then we might have to cut this part out.
Possibly.
Hey John, look, we all know these tournaments take a lot out of people, and we all know certain players run pretty hot. Like Juan Araya runs really hot during these matches. Did you put rocks or books in the guy's bag to make his bag heavier for him to carry around during a tournament?
All right. Well, first of all, let's go back a little bit here. I don't think that Juan runs hot. He just gets very upset with himself. Now, he might be difficult to play with. I've played 4 or 5 tournaments with Juan over the years. The highlight clearly being our recent win in the PTI 95 plus tournament at Short Hills last year. But I don't think he's a hothead out there. I think there's a lot of other people that are. I've never seen him be mean. He just wants to win. If he has to say that the ball broke in the middle of a point and that we should do it over, then he will do that. But yes, we would. We brought Juan into pranks for a while. We would steal stuff from his club. And one time at Short Hills, we parked 2 cars so close that he couldn't get into his car. But enough. Yeah, he was. I think he was on his way to South America. Maybe he was on his way back to Argentina with Timo, and we were at Short Hills. And now I'm going to get in trouble with the Short Hills people, because I went to the front hall of Short Hills where they had some really nice gigantic coffee table books, and I put like 2 or 3 of them in his bag, weighed his bag down by about 20 or 30 pounds. And then he realized it when he got to Florida, that he was carrying he did not bring to South America, I don't think, but he definitely got on a plane with having stolen some books from Short Hills. And I will say that I've also made many attempts to not steal his car, but move his car or play tricks on his car, such that it's possible that even to this day, because I know for many years, Juan would go onto the court with his car keys with him because he did not trust leaving them anywhere for what Steve or myself might do to his car. And we did a bunch of things.
So casually there, you mentioned 95 PTI champion. First off, I think you're a ringer at 95 PTI. I didn't know the number went that high.
Well, that's kind of a mistake they made. So Juan asked me to play the Short Hills 95s. Apparently he can't do that anymore last year. And when we won the trophy, which was a tumbler, I guess the engraving people had gotten it wrong and they engraved PTI 95 plus instead of like the 95 combined age. And Juan loved to say, "Ho, I'm a -5. That makes you 100." So, but I still have that tumbler, although I don't use it very often.
And sorry, I had one more quick one. I want to get back to Steve DeRose real quick.
Sure.
What happens when you took one of his overheads?
Oh yeah, that was unfortunate. It's kind of a long story too, and it was a bad day. I happen to know the date. It was October 4, 2008, because on October 4, 2007, I went on probation all right, so I was growing, but it was just for personal consumption. And I rode there on my bicycle one day, and long story short, I had to, pee in a cup. But a year later, I was off on October 4th, and Ray Cross said, "Hey, we have to have a paddle party for you, and we'll call it the Retox." So we get to the field club, and again, it was October 4th, 2008. It was definitely the jobber, like right when the Yankees were playing the Indians, because there was a playoff game on at the time, and we were having a good time, and I'm there with a bunch of guys. I won't name them all before the match, before we started playing, and the Retox began, and we went out on the court, and I think, again, it might have been John Shahadi on the other side of the court, and I forget who else, and John Shahadi, who lobs high, hit this big high lob between Steve and me, and we both swung at it, and he got air, and I got his forehead. And calmest, coolest manner that he could, he got down on one knee and just said, totally deadpan, "That's not good." And at the time, I could then see the blood like kind of gushing through his fingers. Long story short, he drove himself to the hospital and he got stitched up. And I just remember him saying that he asked the doctor after maybe 60 or 70 stitches, he says, "Hey doc, you're almost done?" He says, "No, well, I'm almost done stitching up the muscle, and the next thing will be the skin." So anyway, I'm sure it hurt. I'm sure it was annoying, but there's no scar. So, everything turned out okay. And then maybe I'll get him back. I hit him once, after that, but I didn't get or he hit me once, but anyway, that's
a caring group of guys. He's bleeding from the head, and he drove himself to the.
Well, we still had him. We replaced him on the court and played for a while. And we were watching the playoff game. And you know what? It's typical Steve. He does his Irish goodbyes a lot, and he did that. It was only like a 2-mile drive, so it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like it was that urgent.
A couple hundred stitches.
Johnny, I'm afraid to ask this next question for like the trajectory of all these answers you're giving, but why did Zach Rosenau have to call the cops?
Oh, well, that's
he's a nice guy. I mean, what happened?
I mean, listen, you got to be thinking, if you're going to get in the game, if you're going to pull a prank on me, and it's going to go the other way, and you got to be ready and aware. And so I had a party in December, and Zach and Blake, by the way, Blake's on the list too, because he was involved. So they put some like little army infantrymen in my bed underneath my underneath my sheets and what I found like 1 or 2 in the morning, but that got him in the game. You know, I didn't lie in the bed, but it was a decent prank. That's what I tell them. And then so a week or 2 goes by, and we're at Short Hills, and it was the Lee, it was the night of the Saturday night of Lee Classic, and Zach had to go to a party afterwards, and he kept saying, and he and his wife were going to drive separately to the party, and so I said, well, where'd you play this morning? Did you get a parking spot here? And he's just telling me. That's the thing. You have to ask questions and find out the answers, and then you know how to do the bit. So he told me his car was in the parking lot. So I went to his car, you know, and it was locked, but his key was on the back tire, pretty easy to find. So I took I moved it to the other parking lot at Short Hills, and I came back in, and then he goes out to look for his car, and he starts flipping out. And meanwhile, when he came back in, I had already moved the car back to where it was. So I'm outside with him, and he's like searching me for his keys, and everything was back where it was. And he left to go to this party that he was late to in Summit. And so now he thought it was all over, but the cops come in later because I knew he went to a party in Summit. Well, I found out the name of the people whose party it was. And then I picked up my daughter at the train station, coincidentally, and we started driving through Summit looking for the street with a lot of cars on it. We found the street. We found Zach's car in the street. Okay, the car's locked, but he had put the key on the other tire this time, not so difficult to find. So I took his car and I drove it into the driveway of where he was having where the party was. And I parked it like so that if you came out of the house and walked down the front walk, there was like kind of like a stone wall, and you had to like squeeze by this car that was the worst parked car ever. Well, what happens? Zach leaves the party, squeezes by his own car in the street to find his car, and it's not there. So what does he do? He gets in the car with his wife's car to drive home, and then he texts me, "Hey, for real, my car got stolen from the party I was at." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what a moron!" So I called Zach immediately, and I told him that. He said, "Where's my car?" I said, "It's in the driveway." He had already called the cops to report his car stolen, so he had to go back and explain to the cop that no, the car wasn't stolen. It was right there in the driveway of the house, and that it was a prank. I think the cop, I'm pretty sure, thought it was really funny. I know that Zach's wife, Sean, did not. Went on vacation with their family over Christmas. I had a very nice charcuterie board and some drinks sent to their room at the Salamander in Virginia, because I'll make up for scaring the wife. Although I still haven't really figured out what to do for Julia Englander, but maybe there's something I could do in that.
So I heard there's a good story about the legend of Ox Smith in Chicago as well.
Oh, well, that was a tough match.
I'm sure.
I don't know if anybody knows Ox. I don't remember.
Everybody knows Ox. Ox is a legend. DC and Ox.
Well, we played them in the first round of Chicago in Nationals in 2018. We really didn't do much playing of paddle. Maybe we kept score, maybe we didn't, but we kept trying different things. And one time we were at like Lake Forest Club, and the ball went out of the court and went down into the parking lot, which is a good 20 feet below the court. And then DeRose proceeded to serve from the parking lot. And we played a point with DeRose in the parking lot. And we did a lot of different things. I think at the end of the match, we won on match point because I was behind Ox, holding his arms behind him when DeRose hit the ball at him. We won the match, and fortunately, and then won a couple more. And then we put the score in as like 16-14, like whatever it was like 7-6, 6-7, 16-14, and third set tiebreaker, at which point DeRose started getting texts from members at his club. What the heck happened? How could that happen in the first round? Which DeRose just sent them a picture of Ox, and that pretty much ended it. But it was a really fun match. One of the most fun matches I think I've ever had.
They are two of the best guys in the game of paddle.
Yep, they don't take it seriously, but they love the game. Actually, I forget who Ox's partner was. He wasn't very good, but Ox has some skill.
DC. Ox's partner was DC.
Yeah, DC not so much. Well, sorry, DC, but Ox can play a little bit. I think they're all buddies from aren't they from Columbus? Friends with
Columbus, yeah.
They're part of the Brian Heil gang.
Yeah.
Can I tell a quick story about Brian and?
Please do.
Please do.
All right, so well, this is more about a little bit more about Denny, but it was that time that we went out to Chicago with no real thoughts of winning the tournament. And when we got there, actually, I'll work in a little story about Drew and Guy into this tournament too. So we get to Chicago. We're not seeded. We're probably in the 12 to 15 range. And we get a practice match with Caldwell and Cordish. And Steve says to Caldwell and Cordish, "Hey, we're going to the Bears game on Sunday. Are you guys?" Meanwhile, it was kind of moronic because those guys were the number 1 seed and they were planning on playing in the final on Sunday. So anyway, we and somehow I had like online, I had gotten Denny's cell phone number beforehand. So while this tournament's going on or before the tournament, we just started sending texts to Denny, like anonymous texts, and he didn't respond to any text the whole time. And then the tournament goes on, and we have a little bit of success, and we're winning matches. We beat Bondurant and Johnson, and then we got really lucky because Burka and Eberly beat Kevens and Uline. And so now we're in the semifinals, and we're very surprised, and we're still going out and having a good time. And then out of nowhere on Saturday night, meanwhile, Brian Heil and Danny English had success too. They beat Gambino and Allmiller, so we were on a collision course to be in the finals together. And finally, and we kept sending them texts, no response. And then DeRose broke through, and he said, "Do you guys want a McRib?" And Denny wanted a McRib, and he responded immediately that yes, he will take a McRib. At which point, so then Sunday comes along. We're playing the semifinals, and this is where I'll bring I have a good college buddy who had the tickets to the Bears game, and he invited me. So I figured, we could play Steve and me. I figured we could play the semifinals, and if we lose, we can go straight to the Bears game. So I literally had the tickets in my pocket playing the semifinals against Marino and Stulak, and we won that match. And I also had a McRib because if we played Denny and Brian, we could present them both with McRibs going into the finals, which we did. But then, so after the win in the semis, and I've never had Drew Broderick and Guy Moore root more in our favor for that match, because when I walked off the court after the semi, I took the 2 Bears tickets and I put them in Drew and Guy's hands, and they jumped in the car and went straight to the Bears game. At which point they meet my friend Rob Ryan from college, and they're just get together talking, and Rob looks over to Drew and Guy and says, "Hey, you know what? I think it's crap. I think Lubow, I think it's bullshit. Lubow got this like off-season tennis pro to be his partner, and now he's in the finals of this tournament. I just want to say that I think that's a cheesy way to do it." And Guy and Drew are just sitting there pretty quiet, and about 10 minutes later, Rob's brother Pat looks over to those guys and says, "Hey, so what do you guys do for a living?" And they just looked back and said, "Seasoned tennis pros." All right, so that was two stories in one. That was the McRib and the off-season tennis pro story, which Rob Ryan loves telling, and Drew and Guy kind of like it too.
So this seems to like Chicago is a good place for you. A lot of these stories that we got sent about you are based in Chicago, like the peninsula. You're screwing with the bellhop.
Yeah, that was a strange one. We went to the Parsons, DeRose, and I checked in the peninsula, and we went to the room, but they needed there was a king size bedroom in the room they were sharing. They needed two queens, so we called the bellhop. We called to get rooms, so the bellhop comes up, and we had to move us from like the 12th floor to the 16th floor. And so the bellhop, we go in the elevator. The bellhop, says he's gonna take the stairs or get another elevator because it was too full with all our stuff. So we elevator door closes. We just stand there talking, and about 10 seconds later, the elevator door opens again, and there's the bellhop. And we were like, "Oh my God, this guy is the Flash. How did he get to like the 15th floor in 10 seconds? We couldn't believe it. We were bowled over. As it turns out, we never hit a button in the elevator, and the door just opened because we were sitting there still on the 12th floor. But it was that was kind of surprising at the time. But we had a great time in Chicago because we would make it into little party weekend too. We would kind of make charities our weekend off. We'd stay in the city and get a whole bunch of guys and have a great time.
And last year you won a national championship with a Chicago native.
Oh yes, 55. Scott Manzinger came out here and we prevailed in a tough tournament. Yeah, so I'm a runner-up in the regular, but I can win a couple of the age things. I think I won Jerry Albright's time in the 50s a number of years ago, and it was nice of Scott to travel to New Jersey, and I like playing the local tournaments. So yeah, we were lucky enough, and maybe I can get him to defend in a couple of weeks if he's willing to go to Delaware.
He was non-committal when I saw him shortly, but I'll ask. I see him again tomorrow morning, so I'll push him again for you.
Well, it's got to be, some sort of injury because he's always injured in some way, and he'll happily tell.
Yeah, he's got like a calf injury or like something up by his knee or something going on. But yeah, I'll work on him for you. And he also asked us, what's the Juntarage, which is a great name, by the way.
Well, I will say that I coined it, and Kerry Delmonico took it to the next level. So I'm fortunate enough to do some business in Chicago, but I would never go to Chicago until these paddle tournaments came along. And then I found out that I was the client, so I could get all these rooms at the peninsula and bring all the paddle guys out. And then one year, nationals, we'd come out on Thursday and we'd go out to Tavern on Rush, which I just found out closed, which
Just
is
closed.
in fact, while we're speaking, Englander asked me about it. Yeah, it was horrible. Then we would go to Rosebud on Friday, and at one point on, I think one of the nights, we were sitting at Tavern on Rush, and I said, you know what, you guys are my entourage. And then I said, no, you're my Jontourage. And then the next year, Kerry Delmonico had Jontourage t-shirts made up with the logo, with the Entourage with the star, just like the logo from the show Entourage, which was on at the time. And everybody had a nickname on them. I think that DeRose just said Lubow's partner, which is what his nickname was for a while. But everybody had, I think she made about 10 or 11 of them, and I have one somewhere still.
That's fantastic. And do you are you aware of what
the Jontourage was canceled many years ago, both on the show and in real life?
Are you aware of what that area of Chicago is called? Tavern on Rush and Rosebud and everything?
I am not.
No one knows where I'm going with this. That little area, it's like there's two streets meet, and then there's a cross street there. Like I think it's State Rush and State Rush, and I can't remember the other one. Anyway, it's called the Viagra Triangle.
Oh.
Because you can go out on any given night. There's a ton of old dudes and smoking hot chicks hanging out down there. So it's
right. Well,
next time you're down there, that is the Viagra Triangle.
All right. Well, sadly, Tavern on Rush is not there anymore. But
you can go Gibson's or all that down there. Yeah.
Place.
All right. So I got to ask two more questions real quick, and then we'll get into some rapid fire questions to get you out of here on a Sunday. But last prank question: I heard Philly Nationals, you and Mark Power's mom teamed up on something. How did that work?
Oh well, we were into scaring. Mark Power's mom was wonderful, and she's a good sport. But she got in the game for a little bit. And that she deserved to get scared once or twice. I guess the one thing that was set up kind of perfectly is unfortunately for Mark and John, they had lost their semifinal match, but the bathroom at the hut wasn't working. So when they were going to head out of town, Mark's mom had to go. So she was going to walk up to the clubhouse. So I went another way and went into the clubhouse, went downstairs to the ladies' room, into the first John, and stood on top of the first John and waited patiently as she happened to come right into that John, and I scared her and then ran out, and it worked very well. Then Mark was in their car out front, Mercedes SUV with tinted windows. And then I got into the back of that car, and Mark's mom comes out all shaking a little bit and telling him about the scare. And then they started to drive away. And right before they got to the exit of Waynesboro, I reached around and grabbed her by the neck from behind and doubled down on the scare. And she did, I will say that at some point she did get me back because she, I think that at some point in the next season, she put a couple of bananas in my sneakers, which I did not find for a long time. They ended up
Nice.
a little bit.
Little
That's okay.
fermented.
Good job. She's in the game.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice. All right. So as is now a tradition when we have guests on, as you're making all these trips out of town and flying, whether it's on the private jets or commercial, neck pillow, yes or no?
Neck pillow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never had one, but the first time I saw one, I said, that's a great idea. But now, so I've never had one or used one, but now sometimes you can kind of fold the seat back up and lean on it. But I thought it was great at the time, never had one, but I think it was a good idea. Hopefully somebody made some money.
It's amazing. You'll love it.
Not too effeminate for you. You're okay with that?
Oh no, I would never. No, I definitely would reluctantly use one. Maybe if I was in the back row. No, I mean, seeing people walk through the airport, gotta say, not a big fan.
Yeah.
More of like matching sweatsuits in the airport, but I don't want to really make enemies, so we'll go.
Yeah. No, you're doing just fine.
All right. So out of all the people you've played against, who's the one person, actually even not played against, who's the one person you most want to FYM as hard as you can?
Oh. I don't really hit that ball that well. I don't think anybody. I think it's an effective shot, and I don't mind when people do it to me as long as it's low. But I don't think I'd ever. First of all, I can't. I don't hit the ball hard enough. But that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe you.
Nice. That's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, we're never playing again.
All right. Well, you better not play the. Listen, I can arrange that we can. I can talk to Scanoni. We'll play next year again.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh, we'll come out and watch that. Hey, I'm sorry. All right, I gotta jump in real quick. We had someone on one of their episodes a couple of years back. We asked that question, and this person was like super nice about it. Didn't really, kind of gave roundabout answer.
You say me?
45.
You say me?
No, it wasn't you. 45 minutes went on in the conversation and about different things. The second our interview went over and it goes, you're no longer recording, this person just, the split second the recording stopped, this person just blurted out the person he wanted to FYM. And we're like, what are you talking about? He goes, I've been holding on to that. I had to tell you, but I couldn't have it on air on who I wanted to hit. Oh, it was amazing.
Well,
like 40, we had no idea what he was talking about. He just blurted a name out the second the recording stopped.
All right. Well, if I think of it before this recording is over, I will make sure to blurt it out just before you turn off the.
Perfect.
Oh, good. Okay,
Perfect.
nice.
Yeah,
All
just whenever. Just a random thing like Tourette's. Just scream it out.
Sorry to interrupt, Aaron.
I've been thinking about that question over the last few weeks, and you know who I would like to FYM the most? I gave Johan as my original answer. Jerry Viant. I would love. I don't know why, but I just
why?
That would be.
She's so nice.
I know that.
Gosh.
I have nothing.
You're probably going to edit this out.
I
No,
think that would
we're
be-
keeping
No,
that
not
in
at
for
all.
sure. No,
That'd
that's
be
in there.
legendary. That would be
We may
legendary.
highlight that one, in fact, just to get him in trouble.
Wow.
Hey, so have you ever payback hooked somebody in a match?
You mean like made a bad call because they made a bad call?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Really?
Actually, the only time the only time I got chastised for making calls is I would DeRose, sometimes DeRose would hit balls out and I would call them out and like call us to lose the point. And then he got tired of that after a while and said, listen, could you let
Excellent.
them call it out. So
Yes. Yes.
no, I never try to, I don't think I've ever tried to, no, I just tried to call it straight.
See, Ben hasn't done that since yesterday.
Oh,
Hey, no, it was charities. I did it. Just one
Oh.
payback call.
all right.
I got called out for doing it. Yeah.
You know, one is okay. I mean, I've had
Yeah.
bad calls against me, but whatever. Not tried to get back at by making a bad call back. So I don't think there's an answer to that one.
Hey, John, there's this guy out in Chicago. He's like a legend. I've never met him, but I feel like I know him so well. His name is Jay Waldenberg. Have you?
I knew
ever
you were going to
played
say
against
that.
this
I knew you were going to. I was going to say Jay Wildenberg. I'm gonna say that.
So you do listen to the show. I think you
No,
just
I never
revealed
listen to the show. I
yourself.
just know.
What?
I just
Come
know.
on.
I was trying to think of the one guy from Chicago who you might say, well, why? What were you going to say about him?
No, I was just curious if you've ever played against them. I mean, everybody
Or
seems
know
to have some
him, or-
story, you know.
No, I've never been on the court with Jay Waldenberg. Although one time I was sitting behind the court, and he would just kept like warming up by smashing balls into the wire,
Side screen.
the side screen,
Yep.
and then I ran over. It was driving me crazy, and I ran over, lifted up the snowboard, and took the ball, so he couldn't do it anymore. But I'm a little annoyed by that. But no,
He takes a
Contact.
practice serve before every serve into the side screen.
well, so does Scott Bondurant, but Jay was doing it with nobody else on the court, and it was just
Oh,
getting
that sounds about right.
noisy and annoying. So, whatever.
Yeah. That's
All right,
fantastic
great.
that you took his ball from him.
What's your favorite band, John?
REM. Well, I mean, they're no longer, but REM.
Really?
Are they
John
no longer?
Fred.
I had no
Well,
idea.
They've been broken up for maybe 10 years, but yeah,
Oh,
REM. I can sing some of their songs and
Maybe not now.
concerts.
Yeah. I had John for a dead guy. I would have gone with Grateful Dead.
Oh, I like the Dead. I even went to see Fish recently, where it was similar. But yeah, I've been to a bunch of Dead shows, but I put them top 10, but not top 1.
did you take edibles going to the Fish concert? I assume that's
You have
that's you have to, right?
I was a little
Nice.
nervous going in. Because a couple of them had shrooms in them, but I survived it, and it was a fine, lovely night in New York City.
What's your favorite TV show?
Currently or of all time?
Either or.
Open-ended question.
Oh, I don't know. Are there any TV shows that are still on? I would have to just say off the top of my head, The Odd Couple with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. Cheers, definitely, and maybe Seinfeld.
Nice. Some classics.
Yeah, classics. I mean, everybody now just watches Netflix things. I don't think there's a TV show as it stands that This Week in Baseball was a TV show. I liked that a long time ago, but off the top of my head, nowadays it's just movies and shows.
That might be the first time we're ever going to get a This Week in Baseball call for the favorite TV show.
Yeah,
Right.
Twib. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely, Melon. That's good stuff.
Great, and a great soundtrack to it. Dun, 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 dun. That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
Pete Rose rounding third base.
All right. How about this is a good one. Next player, why don't you do it, men or women?
No,
or
no,
and-
no,
and-
no, no. We're just gonna ask him just men. Sorry, I forgot to delete a certain part of
Wow.
this. Well, let's
Wow.
go with all just men.
Just men. Okay.
Yeah.
Who will be the next player to win nationals? Next male player apparently to win nationals who has not yet.
Oh, are you talking like age group or?
No. The real
No,
nationals.
open, real
Alright.
nationals.
Sorry.
So the next person to break through? That's a good. I mean, maybe Chris Humphreys. I think he's really worked at the game. Is playing extremely well. Mick won one last year, so I guess that he disqualifies himself, and happily for him. I don't know, maybe Chris Humphreys. I'd have to think that that at some point, given the right situation and the right partner, you might see Graham McInerney, McNerney, who has really studied the game for a long time, and through that and through very exceptional skill, has really brought himself to the next level. With all of the Billy Bean of paddle. So maybe one of those two guys can pull it off. Obviously, if they'll have partners, so maybe whoever they play with would be along with them. But I think those guys are up and coming and could be the next ones.
So are you saying you'd like to see Humphreys and McNerney play together in the Nationals?
No, I wouldn't mind seeing Humphreys and who's he play with?
Philippe.
Felipe.
And I don't know who Graham's is playing with. Who I think is also playing well is Philippe Rams. While we're on Philippe, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think any of those,
Absolutely.
I mean, I know he plays with Wagner, and I wouldn't try to break those teams up, but no, I wouldn't think that any of those people would change teams. But I think that they're, not necessarily the future of the game, because the future of the game is still, the present, because there's a lot of guys that have won national championships that might continue to win for another 5 or 10 years. But I would think at some point in the next couple of years, somebody like that, a team like that might break through.
And would you say the dagger is your favorite shot or your signature shot? Is that like what people know you for?
Oh, no, not,
Favorite shot's a drop shot. Start
Yeah.
listening, Ara.
Drop shot.
Come on,
drop
man.
signature shot, favorite shot.
Wait, where do your daughters play college again?
Cornell.
Sorry, my internet's breaking up. Can I blame that?
No.
All right. No, that signature shot, favorite shot. Yeah, but the drop shot. The drop shot is, the dead hand drop shot being, right on the net. People sometimes learn not to drive it to that right, the spot where I can hit a drop, but it's still one of my favorite shots.
Okay. So John, you've had clearly from this interview a very colorful career in paddle. If there was a movie about you, there was like a full cast, who would play Jon Lubow?
Oh my gosh. Movie about me?
Yeah, about your life,
No.
the autobiography, the biography of Jon Lubow.
Oh, I just play myself.
Naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't
Why
think there'd
not?
be any
You
reason
got
to
that.
go out there. No, I mean, anything else wouldn't be real. But no,
It would diminish it. It would diminish it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Best hut in the country that you've ever seen and why?
Hold on. I think I have the answer to the last question. John Lovitz.
John Lovitz.
Love it.
I think
You look
John
at
Lovitz would play
Jon
Lubow.
Lovitz. No, I don't know if I do. I would think that he does spell his name Jon the same way that I do. But that's
It seems like a natural fit.
okay. Perfect.
Go ahead, Ara. I'm sorry. Best hut in the country.
Best hut in the country.
Oh my gosh, I don't really think about it that way. I would say any hut with a full couch that I can sleep on between matches when I'm waiting sometimes hours between matches. So any hut with a full leather couch, because it seems to me like a lot of those have gone missing, because there used to be a great one at Glenview because I could sleep with about 100 people in the room. There was some good ones at Short Hills, but it seems like now it's all these little single chairs and any hut with a good couch.
So John, I don't know if you saw this because you're probably not all over social media, but I had you on Football Friday, but not on the court. You were actually asleep on a couch with your shoes off, and your feet on the table. So I took a photo of you and I put you on Football Friday as a football.
But for the feet on the table?
Yeah,
But at least I found a good couch.
that was a nice couch, right?
You know what I used to love? There's a couple of pictures where Blake Cordish's dad used to follow him around and come to a lot of tournaments when Blake and David Caldwell were playing, and he could sleep. I mean, he would be wearing his gigantic orange jacket and Uggs up to his almost to his knees, but he could sleep and anywhere. So there's a couple of pictures somewhere. Once he was sleeping on Short Hills, and I just pretended to sleep right next to him. Another time in Long Island. So Mr. Cordish can fall asleep too, even in a chair. But it's nice to see that he appreciates a good nap too during a tournament.
That couch right in front of the fireplace at Glenview was nice, wasn't it?
Oh, I love that. That was that was one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so John, do you listen to a lot of live streams?
No,
Who's been on them?
no,
He's been on them, but does he listen to a lot?
No, I don't usually listen to that or watch that many. I mean, sometimes if I'm around, but I haven't that often.
No favorite commentators other than, of course, myself.
Oh, well, I mean, I love commentating with Mark Fischel. He's and
Why?
I've never commentated with Brad Easterbrook, but he's great also.
Why?
But yeah, Mark is great. I love commentating with Mark because he can be the straight man and he knows the score and he has a photographic memory of the game and he can ask me questions, and sometimes I forget what's going on or say I'm not paying attention. But so he's a great guy to announce with, and I think he's extremely knowledgeable.
Okay. And this is the last one. It's an easy one. Would you rather play a paddle tournament or 72 holes of golf?
In the same day?
Yeah.
What course?
No, you got a choice. You got a choice to do one or the other.
There's
For a
only enough
weekend.
time for one.
I can't answer. I mean, what course?
What course of your choice?
You can
Of course,
pick
my
your choice
choice,
and your
golf.
tournament.
Golf.
All right.
Well, I mean, the tournament's a tournament, but you're saying I could play Augusta or Pine Valley or any course? 72 holes? Golf.
Nice.
Or the Jersey Classic.
Oh,
What Jersey Classic? The Lee
the
Classic?
League Classic.
The League Classic, of course.
Okay, so you're saying that I could get up early on a Saturday morning, play a couple of early round matches against guys like you, then go have lunch, and then play in the afternoon at Short Hills, or I could go play Augusta.
Tough choice,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's a very tough choice.
Tough choice. Tough choice.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
On that note. John, this has been fun. It's been fun for us. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too, but I know everyone that listens is going to like it. But good stuff tonight. We appreciate you being on, and thanks for making things entertaining, both when you're playing and on the show here today.
All right, well, thank you for having me. I did have one other thing I wanted to say. I was talking with Fischel about this today. So I'm sorry if I'm going overtime on this, but I
Not
just,
at all.
Fischel and I would talk about it, and we figured out a piece of advice for anybody who wants to get better at paddle. And there's just 4 little things that you have to do if you've played, maybe for a season or 2 and you want to get to the next level. So here we go. Number 1, you have to get your serve in. You don't have to hit a hard serve. You just have to get the point going. So that means get your serve in, because if you fall, I don't know, maybe Graham has done the statistics about how tough it is to hold serve if you fault once. Well, and it's got to be a lot tougher if you fault twice. So you can't fault. And beyond that, you have to have a serve that's effective enough just so you can get into the point. So if you hit it soft, get your butt to the net and get the volley in, and now you're into the point. Number 2, you have to have one somewhat offensive shot, whether it's forehand or a backhand or a drop shot, but you just have to have one thing that you think you do well and then do it. So if it's, let's just say it's your forehand, that means when somebody puts the ball right where you want it, you have to hit that, you have to hit the drive, and that's your one shot. If it's not there, if it's a little off, if you have to move your feet and you're not in position, don't hit it. And if your shot's your forehand, then your shot's not at backhand. So just concentrate on what your one shot is, what you think that you do above average. And that's number 2. Number 3 is the best way to get better in paddle. The third thing you need to do is, if you're setting up for the games, you have to make the phone calls, because nobody out there that's better than you is going to say, hey, I'm going to get a game together. Why don't I call guys that are worse than me? Well, nobody does that. So if you want to get better in the game, you have to do number 3, which is make the phone calls to guys that are better than you. And then when you get them to play, get your serve in and only hit your one shot. And number 4, bring beer. And that's it. And I'll take you from a beginner to intermediate, that's the way to do it.
What's your beer of choice?
Oh, Coors Banquet and Moosehead.
I love Coors Banquet. It's the greatest
that's it.
beer. Oh, little stubbies. Perfect.
Retro beer, just like my retro Dunk Lows. That's and all the vintage shirts. So maybe I'm on the list or whatever you want to call it, but that's my beer, Coors Banquet and Moosehead too.
Nice.
I
Nice.
love it.
Hey, Ara, when we stop recording here, I'll give you my number so you can call me.
Of course, I need to start playing up.
John, a little slow on the uptake. The rest of them couldn't figure out what that was about. So, hey, thanks again, John. That's good stuff, and that's obviously good things to think about as far as trying to progress and get better as well. So, hey, we appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much, and been a lot of fun talking.
All right, great guys. Thanks. See you on the courts.
Thanks, John.
buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. I hope you're able to catch your breath after an hour and a half of Jon Lubow stories. There was some funny, entertaining stuff, and even most of it was true, which is the crazy part. So, and we got John on because we were trying to get a hold of the elusive Steve DeRose, and Steve said no, which I think might have been the first person to ever decline an invitation to be on Inside the Wires. He said Lubow is the guy you want. So we said, all right, Lubow it is. So. That was Jon Lubow, and we're awfully glad he was on because it was some funny stuff. So thanks for listening, and enjoy what's coming up. Short Hills. Final Grand Prix of the year. Short Hills this coming weekend, and then a few more weeks we have Nationals. So thanks for listening. We'll have some more good content for you leading up to Nationals this year. See ya.